Good evening, councillors. Good evening, staff members, and good evening to our guests tonight. We have two guests. We have Karen Sparks at the back there, and Mark Giles, new residents to our town, and we welcome you. We'll begin this evening by acknowledging the Ngadju Ngana people, the traditional custodians of the land and the waters of the Light Regional Council area. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. Well, welcome everybody to our first meeting for the year. It seems like a long break since December the 10th, but here we are, and it's time to tighten our seat belts for the forthcoming year ahead. I think it's going to be very exciting for us. Do we have any apologies at this point? We have one leave of absence at the moment, Councillor Simon Zeller, who is on his way home now from Switzerland. He'll be back with us by tomorrow, missed out by a day. Excuse me?
What's that, a leave of absence or what apology?
Well, he's had a leave of absence.
Oh,
yeah. I just wanted to make clear that he's not here. Yeah. Oh, and we have a recommendation a little lower down for a leave of absence from our Councillor Bill Close. Would someone like to move that way? Thanks, Councillor Allison. Someone like to second that motion? Thanks, Councillor Fabio. All those in favour? Those against? Bill, you can go on holidays. How's that?
Thank you, through the chair. So the first leave of absence was for Councillor Simon, and then the next request is we'll have a motion for, I assume Councillor Bill would like to put forward a motion for a leave of absence for a period. So the first one was for Councillor Simon Zeller.
Okay. Can we have someone move that Councillor Bill be given a leave of absence? Is that what you're asking for? Did someone move that way? Thanks, Fabio. And Councillor Lynette. Any discussion, councillors? If not, all those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thanks, councillors. I'm sorry for the mistake. One on the board already. We move on now to confirmation of our minutes.
A minute taker's just trying to quickly catch up.
Oh. Well, okay. Section 3 of our council meeting tonight is the confirmation of minutes. The first being the confirmation of the council minutes and the confidential minutes of the ordinary council meeting held Tuesday the 10th of December 24. Would someone like to move that way? Thanks, Councillor Michael. Someone like to second that motion? Our Councillor Bill. Any comments or questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that motion is carried. We move on now to our communications, and we've had an interesting period in the last 6 weeks or so. One of the things that really impressed me happened just the other night. We all are aware that the Bethel Road has been on our roads agenda for a number of years now, and the people down the bottom of Bethel Road and into the hills there have been very tolerant, very patient for a long period of time. We've now obviously have the funding to develop that road to a standard that will be bitumised from the end of the bitumen currently in Bethel Road to Wycott Road. We had a street meeting the other night, and I thank the councillors who took the time to be there as well, where a number of the local residents were there. And these street corner meetings are very good. In fact, they offer the opportunity for our residents to to make a comment, to talk about what's going on, how it's going to impact them, and sometimes, and certainly in this particular instance, say a big thank you to the people that are going to make it happen. It was a really good turnout of local people, and I thank the council members, as I said before, for being there. Also, I can't get away from the fact that Australia Day happened on Sunday at Wasleys, and it was a wonderful day for our council, and certainly for the award winners, and for our citizenship ceremony. We had two new citizens ceremonies conducted on that time. I must thank sincerely the staff members who helped me put this together and held my hand most of the day to get things right. It was very, very well organised and extremely well attended, and I think we've, as a council, got a lot to be thankful for and a lot to be proud of. The other matter that came to light too is the fact we had a visit from Tony Piccolo, who's a local member for Light. He had this concept of putting together a small towns reinvention conference in Kapunda later in the year, and he engaged someone called Peter Kenyon, who is a long-term community advocate who currently lives in Western Australia, but he's been doing this type of work for many, many years. And in a previous life, I met Peter Kenyon, this particular conference will take place in Kapunda later in the year, and it'll bring together a whole lot of people that want to think about small country towns, think about our villages and towns here that we have in our region, and come up with concepts and ideas of how we can improve what we've got, how we can identify things that we might sometimes take for granted that we can do much better at, and just reinvent ourselves, I guess, to some extent, and make sure that we've got a future. His presentation in this very room was quite powerful, and we look forward to that very much. I don't think I have much more to say except to go back to Australia Day once again, and next year I'm not quite sure where we're going to. I think it might be Freeling, but we alternate this around the course from each of our towns. It's either Freeling or maybe Hewitt, but I think it's Freeling. But I again thank everybody who was involved in that particular day. It was something really worthwhile. We're moving on now to our deputations and presentations, and we were going to have a deputation from Tesseract Energy Proprietary Limited, but unfortunately they've not been able to make it this evening, and that will be at a later date. Yeah. Before I do go on, are there any reports of any elected members that you would like to report on in this period? Councillor Michael.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. I just wanted to mention that I attended the opening of the new tourist cabins at Kapunda, the Kapunda Tourist Park in December, and that was a very well attended event by Senator Don Farrell, the member for Light, Tony Piccolo, and the member for Frome, and some elected members amongst others. And I just wanted to commend once again the work of the Kapunda Tourist Park, and also the contribution from the Australian government and the support of the council in making that project a reality. And I hope it makes a difference to tourism in Kapunda. And also, I attended the inaugural awards for the Roseworthy campus of the Trinity College in December as well. It was great to see the first students coming through that school recognised at that award ceremony. It was great to see. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Michael. Councillor Ellison.
Thank you, Mayor Bill, through the chair. So two things. Back in December, I attended on your behalf the University of Adelaide's 6th year Vet valedictory service, which was a great day, and well represented by lots of different people, including Tony Piccolo, Penny Pratt, the Gawlers Mayor, and then I represented yourself. So that was a good day. And also recently on the 13th of January, I attended the street meeting for the Muddlawira Road upgrade, which was in conjunction with Megan, Brenton and James. And that was well run, and yeah, thanks to the staff that came along and facilitated that. And I think there was some good discussions on the road upgrade, as well as a few other things that some of the locals brought up in Worsley. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hobson. I'm sure you'll agree these street corner meetings are very valuable, and the right people are there to answer the questions. We'll move on, and we're into our Section 6, our deputation and presentations. As I mentioned, the Tesseract Energy company won't be representing tonight, but they will be probably at our next council meeting in January. But we do have a member of our Lake Regional Council Governance Advisory panel who is a long-term member of that, who is the current chair, Mr. Ted Burt. Ted doesn't need any introduction to many of our council staff members and staff, but I might ask him to address us tonight and perhaps provide a bit of your illustrious background, Ted. We've been looking forward to this for some time, and we very much welcome you.
Thank you, Mayor Bill. Members, thank you for facilitating this. On behalf of the independent members of the Governance Advisory Panel, which include Graham Gunn and Judith Jones, I've been asked to say thank you for the confidence you've shown in reappointing us as the independent members of your panel. The panel's a really important additive to the culture and organisation of the Light Regional Council. Am I in charge of this, am I? Okay. Oh, just before we get on to that, the individuals, I had a catch up with Brian Carr earlier because I wasn't familiar with why the panel came into existence at this council. A number of you around the table will be familiar with that history, but it was an unfortunate time when there were concerns about the functional performance and behaviour of the then Chief Executive. So when Brian came on board after dealing extensively with the community over his first 6 months, touring with members of council, he became aware of the frustration in the community, there being no vehicle locally for members of the community or members of council for that matter to raise issues of concern about probity and governance issues. And hence the Governance Advisory Panel was formed in about 2007, I believe. It's a core, currently the independent members of myself, I've got a legal background. I was at Norman Waterhouse nearly 40 years and retired in 2008. And it wasn't long after that that I got invited by a number of councils to get involved in governance advisory panels and more subsequently council assessment panels, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The other more notable member of the panel is Graham Gunn, a former Speaker of the House, a Mayor of Streaky Bay, still a continuing member of the council at Streaky Bay, a man who has great experience and a very solid reputation. And not the least is Judith Jones, a woman who you would all know of, who's got a very extensive background in local government and highly respected. So we come to this panel, and I know that there have been a number of occasions when we've met when our core objective is to help the council. We're not a body that's there to be policing or anything of that nature. Our job is to help the council develop its culture that it requires to best service the community. And as I said, that came out of the very reason it was established way back in 2007 or thereabouts. So whilst one of the functions we have, and we can turn now to what those core functions are, hope you can read that. There's a raft of functions. ranging from reviewing, monitoring and advising council on its governance framework, recommending training programs for council members, committee members and senior staff, reviewing, monitoring and providing advice on governance policies and procedures, providing advice on conflict of interest obligations if they arise and we're asked to comment, investigate and report on any alleged breaches of behavioural standards and relevant policies. I'll come to the benefits of you having a panel as distinct from councils that don't in a moment on that very topic. We recommend policies and procedures ensuring legislative compliance. We investigate and provide advice on alleged breaches of governance policies and procedures, and we provide advice on matters related to the council's governance framework. Now, we're in your hands. We only meet when we're required to meet. We don't have any regular routine meetings. That's not necessary. It's only necessary when the council feels, or your independent members, the mayor and the deputy mayor, feel that there's an issue or issues that should be brought to us for independent consideration. Can I give you a comparison of where this council sits compared to, sadly, too many? Matters of conflict, behavioural issues, unreasonable complainants, independent reviews and compliance are first handled by the mayor, who has the right to make a decision as to whether these issues are going to be managed internally or managed externally. And if they're managed externally, there's a choice of options: lawyers, behavioural standards panel, which is the state government entity, the ombudsman, ICAC, and if for more serious matters, of course, there's SAPOL and things of that nature, but one would hope that would never be the case. If it's managed internally, it can be brought to the Governance Advisory Panel. Now, the beauty of that is that it's your body, it's your governance advisory group, and you can bring it on very quickly, and you will have sitting around the table not only the independent members who've got the independent experience, but we're informed and guided by the administration and relevant members of council who wish to put submissions to us. You would have read recently that the District Council of Yorke Peninsula, or Yorke Peninsula Council, that there was a finding by the Behavioural Standards Panel about a particular member. That was over 14 or 15 months in review. And it left the council wondering what on earth the outcome of this referral was going to be for all of that time, let alone the person who was the subject of the complaint. And by comparison, I've recently completed an internal review at Yorke on another matter that lasted 2 weeks. They were able to get me in, get the review undertaken, give a report to the mayor, who then was able to proceed expeditiously to implement the recommendations. So keeping control of your own destiny is really important. I have no criticism of the Behavioural Standards Panel, but it is quite significant that it took all that time to investigate the complaints that were brought to it by the mayor, as I said, back in 2023. So what we bring is faster decision making, proactive prevention, consistency and local expertise. And we have had behavioural matters brought to us, and the collective view of the independent members is we're not here to punish, we're here to educate, inform and help the body politic do its job better collectively for the benefit of the community, which is what the community expects. So members, that's all I came prepared to say, but I'm here to answer any questions you might have, and I'm in your hands.
Thank you very much, Ted. You've been a very passionate and great supporter of our council over a long period of time, and we're very grateful for that. So I might open up for questions, councillors, if there are any. Questions for council, for Ted? I think, you know, what yes. Councillor Rich.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that presentation, Ted. Just in relation to sort of your role individually as the chair, distinct from as chair of the panel, if I can separate the two, have you had people come directly to you previously, like a member of the council or staff, or like to gauge an item, if that makes sense?
No, no, I haven't. And in fact, of all the councils that I'm involved in, there's a protocol that the issues brought first to the mayor or the chief executive.
Yep.
Because it might involve the mayor. But it's certainly not uncommon for members of the community or members of the council or staff even to raise issues that they would like the panel to consider. The mayor and the chief executive, if neither have a conflict, then consider what's the most appropriate issue to put before the panel and in what format.
Yep.
But no, it's look, those councils which haven't, there aren't many, they function and use it very well. And those of you who are here may very well know Mayor Leonie Curley from Barunga West. Whenever you see her, ask her what she thinks of the panel, and she will speak, I know, in very positive terms about the support. Likewise, the mayor of York Peninsula, and I do work also in further north up at Roxby Downs, but that's a different scene altogether, of course. But there aren't any metropolitan councils, I can tell you, who have adopted this opportunity. And I know they talk about it, and maybe it's because of their proximity to the LGA, I don't know, or their affinity with lawyers. God forbid I used to be one. But no, it's the I call them the progressive regional authorities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Sorry. Councillor Collins.
When were you last needed in the Light Regional Council to deliberate on anything?
Sorry, I missed that last.
Oh, when was the last time you were needed in the Light Regional Council?
It was last year, early in the year, if I recall correctly. Yep. It's been a while. I've had a number of conversations over the journey with Mayor Bill and Richard, if there have been issues that they want to explore with me as a potential issue to be brought, but we've managed to talk them through, because my goal personally is to be the support for your leaders in issues that might concern them, to expeditiously deal with them, and I hope we achieve that.
And do you help with anything else, like with boundary reform? You were here. You were here once with that. Is that part of your role, or you're here separately on that part?
Should there be issues that are pertinent for the panel to look at in terms of boundary issues, we'd be more than happy and qualified to do that. I'm an advocate externally for, I call it the reform of local government. It's not about boundary reform. It's about looking at the role and function of local government into the future. That has not occurred in the last 30 years. And the sad thing is, state government of either persuasion don't want to touch it. I don't know why, but it's the most vital level of government for any community, particularly regional communities. More vitally relevant than state and federal, in my view, but it doesn't have the respect that it ought to have, in my view, from the bureaucracies of our federal and state agencies. And it just needs, when I say a review of the future, we've got to re-establish the importance. And it's not just words in a statute, it's functional relationship between state and feds and local.
Thank you. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Michael?
Sorry, thanks, Mayor Bill. Just as a follow-on question to that topic that Councillor Collins raised, and it might be beyond your remit to answer, but I'm sure you're knowledgeable about it, given your background. There was some work being done on reform of the Local Government Act and looking at various elements of it. I think 2 years ago or last year. It was under the previous minister. Do we know where that's heading?
Nowhere. Sadly. I mean, I was here for that boundaries issue involving Gawler, and I did ask Richard recently, has that been resolved? It hasn't. And that's another example of poor functionality. I'll be open about that. I was taken aback when I was at this meeting here advising you. I was taken aback at the position of the people from the commission. I think there's enough of you around the table to remember the 80s in local government, but we had what was called a standing local government commission under the Act. And its job was to receive submissions from the community, from the local government community, and from anyone for that matter, to consider what was in the interests of local government and then make representation to the state for reform if needed. It worked really well. It worked really well. I've been advocating for the re-establishment, the reintroduction of that, to take over the control of all of the functional relationship issues between state and local government. But so far, I haven't got any takers. But I'm not giving up.
Anything further, councillors? Well, councillor, or Ted, I must say we're delighted to have you as part of our GAP, our Government Advisory Panel. And I'm just so pleased also that we led the way in all of this, and you were a great advocate for this right from the very beginning. And I'd like to see also that our community could also use this panel as somewhere they can go if they have an issue with our council, any council member, or a council policy. I think it's open to that, and in the past we've offered that opportunity to local residents and so forth. It hasn't been taken up to any great extent because perhaps they haven't had anything serious to complain about, which is a nice feeling, of course. But it's nice to know that it's there. We're not trying to hide behind anything at all, and we've got mechanisms there that people can get a response, an independent response if they require that, and get it done locally.
No, Mayor Bill, that's really important. And it's important for the council through its body politic and administration to let its community know that that avenue is there for them.
That's right. I think we can do a little bit more in that area. We're probably a little bit quiet in the last couple of years in relation to that. It's because it's never been an issue for us. We've got a very well-behaved council. We've got a wonderful community, and they support this council particularly well. So it hasn't been an issue for us, but it's nice to know it's there all the same. But I think highlighting too that the quality of this panel, people like Graham Gunn, with a wonderful reputation and a great advocate for local government for over a lot of years. And Judith Jones, I knew Judith from a previous life, and when she was CEO of the Barossa Council actually many years ago, and she was an extremely competent CEO as well. And of course her role now as the chair of the South Australian Jockey Club. You don't get those jobs because you pull your name out of a hat. You've got to earn them, and she certainly has. So we've got this panel that can provide the advice that we're needing at any one time. The world's getting more complicated, as we know, and we're probably in the country, we're probably blessed that we don't have some of the issues that they have in the city. The issues that you raised, and the example you raised on York Peninsula, Mayor Brand over there, I felt so sorry for him to have to put up with that for 18 months or more, and to get no real resolution at all, except later on in the paper. When you read it in the Advertiser, it wasn't very good, and it didn't do their council any justice whatsoever. And more of that could happen because newspaper journalists like those sorts of stories, I guess. But sadly. But we've got this panel, and we've got you chair of that for another long period, we hope, and we wish you well, and thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you, members.
Thank you so much. And you're very welcome to stay to a meeting too, but not too much of the critique. Action items, councillors, section 8 of our agenda. For our guests here tonight, we go page by page with a whole lot of matters on them, and if there's anything there, council members can raise them if they wish. First is on page 7, Are there any matters there that you'd like to raise? Or have any questions in relation to page 8? Councillor Collins?
Just on the sort of planning, zoning and options for the railway precinct component, I see at the bottom it says planning and zoning options in the precinct suggest to be incorporated and to be tabled to council for funding consideration. When are we expecting for that to be done?
Probably part of the budget process to put the dollars into it to enable it to occur,
Do what?
to develop the growth strategy.
Yeah, but that's just for that area, or that's for?
Council-wide.
Thanks, Richard. Page 8. Councillor Michael?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Bill. Just quick question or quick update to the extent one can be provided on Anglevale Bridge, given that meeting Playford Council occurred almost 2 months ago. Do we know where that's heading?
Thanks, Megan.
Through the chair, yes, I did meet in confidence and they have come back to us seeking our consent to go out to public consultation. I believe that was the outcome of their meeting. The answer was yes.
Okay, so there'll be an update to council before any further commitments are made on Anglevale Bridge from us.
Correct.
Megan, just further to that, are Playford Council taking this extremely seriously, or there's just part of their works program?
Through the chair, Mayor Bill, I can't answer for
No.
City of Playford, but I believe they are taking it seriously.
Yeah, because it seems to be treading water at the moment, doesn't it? It's been, what, a number of years now? No, it's not. Silly Billy. It does seem to be going up and down to one spot a little bit. Anything further on that page, councillors? If not, page 9. Page 10. Councillor Coleman?
So we've got a consultant now, have we? I see on the Review Council Roadwork Building and Maintenance procurement process completed, consultant engaged. Is that so? They actually do any work, or they're just?
Correct. The consultant has been engaged. There's been an online meeting with staff. They've requested a number of documents, which we have provided to them. They're reviewing those documents and they said they'll come back to us with more questions of that. And they are going to be coming to site to actually look at some of our sites as well as part of that process.
I think we're up to page 10, page 11, and last page 12. Section 9, recommendation from committees. There are nil at this point. Section 10, infrastructure and sustainability reports. And once again, Jason hiding up there in the corner. Thank you very much for this extraordinary report. You know, it's forensic, and for a council member to be able to have this information and to be able to answer questions when members of our communities ask us is fantastic. You know, highlighting every road almost that has been worked on, how far, all of that. It's a great body of work and we really appreciate it. So keep up the good work. Are there any questions in relation to this report, councillors? Not. We move on to 10.2, the quarterly update of capital renewal program. Are there any questions or comments in relation to the capital renewal program at this point? Again, we're seeing extremely good reports that are detailed. They're providing answers before we even ask the questions, and I think that's a great credit to the staff. Councillor Collins?
There was only one thing I did say. There was a survey for the playgrounds, wasn't there? And I did have one person ring me and didn't think it was long enough, and the time of year that was the survey was out. But I asked Megan about it. She said it was quite that the survey actually was quite well, attended, reported on. So, but it might in the future, maybe from Christmas over New Year mightn't be a time to have a survey. Because
Yeah.
a few people were saying they missed it, but that's not a criticism, just a suggestion.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Connell. I agree that over the Christmas period, people tend to hibernate a little bit in terms of, some of these matters. So we'll take that on. Anything further, councillors, in relation to these areas? Some nice pictures there in relation to the playgrounds, etc. Gee, we've come a long way and in all of these matters. And the great roundabout, of course, at Greenock Samuel Road, that's great credit to this council to take that project on in the first place. We're talking, $1 million or multi-million dollars, I should say. And when you see the end result of that and the outcomes that it's going to provide, it's something this council can be extremely proud of. I think it's a wonderful achievement, and it's there for forever now, and hopefully there'll be little or no accidents occurring there where they were happening on a daily basis almost prior to this. Any questions in relation to this, councillors? Yeah, Councillor Michael.
Just very quickly, is there likely to be a further update on the Bunyip 2 projects the next couple of months, or Bunyip?
Bunyip 2. Would someone like to take that one? Thanks,
Yeah, through the
Colin.
chair, Mayor Bill, we can incorporate that in next month's strategy and economic development update report.
Perfect, thank you.
Probably just for a little bit of background for our guest tonight. Bunyip Water 1 was a huge project from this council undertook, which provided water to Seppelsfield with 45 kilometres of underground piping and various aquifers and so forth, and a lot of infrastructure put in place. The project was something like $23 million, which half of it was funded by the federal government. And our council stood tall and decided to go ahead with this. The option was to sell all the water to Seppelsfield, and within 6 years, Seppelsfield then had the option to buy the scheme from the council for the $23 million. To the day they bought the scheme, the day that they were able to. So it set this council up very, very healthily financially. But I think more importantly, it gave the council a lot of confidence to be able to go ahead and do these major projects and be able to do them properly. And I look at Richard beside me here and Kyron, who are two major players in that particular project. Done a wonderful job to get that up and running and the way it is. Seppelsfield would not be in the condition it is at the moment and back exporting its wine to China and everything else if this project hadn't have happened, because they had no water. Desperately need water. Bunyip 2 is a project half the size, thereabouts, and I'm being very broadly in saying this, but it will capture stormwater from the Roseworthy development, etc., and in a similar manner provide that water to Seppelsfield, and hopefully at the end of the period, once again, they will buy the scheme if that's what the council decide will be the ultimate outcome. But once again, it's being proactive. It's providing a great resource to the wine industry, and particularly Seppelsfield, but the wine industry in general. And it's also capturing the stormwater, which the developers, of course, don't have to bother too much about. So it's a win-win for everybody. And it's great to know that we're able to manage these types of projects as a council. Gives us confidence. Any questions, councillors, or further questions, I should say? If not, we'll move on to section 10.3, which is our unsealed roads grading practices. And once again, Jason, thank you for this. We've got something like 1,500 kilometres of unsealed roads in our council region. That's a lot of responsibility, and it's a lot of roads to maintain in reasonable condition. Never to catch up. It won't happen. We start to get on top of things, and then we have a drought. Get on top of things again, and we have floods. So there's always something there to provide a barrier. But on the same token, we're getting things done. In reading this report, it gives you a great background as to just how much we have actually covered in our unsealed roads grading program. So thank you, Jason. Is there anything you'd like to comment on in that respect? No, your report says it all. Thank you. Are there any questions, councillors? I have a recommendation down the bottom of page 30 that the council receives the infrastructure and sustainability report and the contents here and be noted. I think I had someone move over here. Was it councillor? Oh, I think it was Councillor Collin. Councillor Collin. Would you like to speak on that, Councillor Collin?
I would. I'd just like to. It is a very good report of Jason's, and I've been getting a lot of complaints about the roads, and I think at the moment there's not much we can do, and I think that we've done a pretty good job without doing a water cut. I don't think there's anything else we can do, but no, I'd like to commend Jason on a good report, and I think we're heading in the right direction, hopefully.
Thanks, Councillor Collin. You've been a great advocate for our unsealed roads, for the residents of our region too, and I think you can see that there is things happening on the horizon that weren't happening before. So you've made an impact, and I think our local residents will appreciate that. So thank you. I'll have a seconder in Councillor Michael. Any further comments or questions? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Section 11, Strategy and Economic Development Reports. There are none at this particular moment. Section 12 is the reports for information. The first one there is the Freeling Christmas party. Is there anyone to speak on that, or any questions in relation to that? Or about the road closures and so forth and the actual event itself. The next one, the CEO's monthly report. It's busy as usual. And any questions to Richard in relation to his report? Not, we'll move on to that. About halfway down page 34, there's a recommendation that reports for information be received and the contents herein be noted by council. Councillor Michael moved. Someone like to second that? Councillor Bill, would you like to speak on that? Any further questions or any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors. Now we go for reports for decision. Section 13 of our agenda, page 35. We're looking. The road process order for Rare Road Ebenezer. There's a recommendation about halfway down the page.
I'll move that.
Another good outcome. Thank you, Councillor Collin. There's a recommendation there. It's been moved by Councillor Collin. And second, Councillor Fabio. Would you like to speak on it, Councillor Collin?
Oh, I just hope we can block it off as soon as we can, because we are there, Hamples and a few others who wanted this to happen. They want it to happen as soon as possible. It is still a lot of people riding motorbikes and doing a lot of damage along there. So as soon as we can get onto it, better it'll be.
Thanks, Councillor Collin. Councillor Fabio, any further comments, councillors, or questions? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. And thanks to Sally for the report too. It's excellent. 13.2, you'll say your future community ward projects update. This is the Freeling Community Garden. Great to see this on the agenda, and it's a recommendation about 2/3 of the way down page 39. Would anyone like to move that recommendation? Councillor Ellison moved and councillor, that was a photo finish. Councillor Net seconded that. Would you like to speak on it, Councillor Ellison? Councillor Net, speak on this? No. Yeah.
But it's just that the dams are clogging up and two of the dams have actually stuck with leaks. And I think we need to get a sort of put a scooping and getting some of the trees out because the water's not getting through it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not seeing much water from up above either, are we? But it is a wonderful initiative. I'm sure Freeling will benefit very greatly from it as well. So any further questions or comments, councillors? And if not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? And that's carried. Thanks, councillors. 13.3, changes to approval delegation, General Manager, Business and Finance. There's a recommendation about a third of the way down the page. Thank you, Councillor Michael. Someone like to second that recommendation? Councillor Ellison? Would you like to speak on that, Councillor Ellison? Councillor Michael? Are there any questions or comments in relation to this report? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? And that's carried. Thanks, councillors. .4, the lease of the Kapunda and Roseworthy CFS is another procedural type matter. A recommendation about halfway down the page. Are there any questions or comments, councillors, in relation to the recommendation? If not, would someone like to move that way? Councillor Ellison, would someone like to second that? Councillor Fabio, would you like to speak on that, Councillor Fabio? I forgot to ask you, Councillor Ellison. No. No questions or comments, council? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. And 13.5, the proposed reserve name by Higginbotham Proprietary Limited relating to the Roseworthy Township Expansion Land Division application. This is in relation to the naming of a proposed reserve by the Higginbotham Group. Are there any questions or comments, councillors, in relation to this? Would someone like to move the recommendation about halfway down the page? 47, Councillor Dean and Councillor Peter. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Peter? Councillor Dean? No. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. I think we're going to be in for a wonderful, wonderful ride with this particular reserve. It sounds absolutely incredible. If it's anything like what Higginbotham have built in the past elsewhere, it's going to be a great benefit to our residents of that region in particular. 13.6 is the Kapunda Historic Mine Site in situ recovery test proposal. As we're aware, Environmental Copper have been working on this particular matter for probably 10 years now, and they're getting to the pointy end. But it's been a long, hard road for them. But they've persevered, and they're getting to close to where they need to be to start mining. But they do have some other issues that they have to overcome, and this is one of them. And we have a recommendation on page 52. Councillor Fabio, would you like to speak on this, Councillor Fabio? Would someone like to second this motion? Councillor Dean, would you like to speak on this? Any further questions or comments, councillors? Oh, thank you for your confidence and put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. And that's a big decision for Environmental Copper, and it's a great step forward to seeing something happening at that historic site. And once again, that's a fabulous report, and it really does cover things pretty much. So, any of our guests tonight, if you want to get a copy of that, you probably can from the internet. It's really worth a good read. It's fantastic. We looked into some of our policy reviews, and we've got a very strong governance section of our council, led by Kari, and always looking at our policies and where they sit and whether they need updating or changing in any way at all. And here's a classic example of the latest review on 6 policies that probably need a bit of tweaking. We have a recommendation 3/4 of the way down page 59. Councillor Annette moved. Would you like to speak on this? Someone like to second this motion? Councillor Michael, would you like to speak on this? No. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors. Thanks very much, Kari. Well, we're on section 14, questions on notice. We do have a question on notice in the confidential section tonight, and we have no questions without notice. So, oh, good, yeah. Are there any questions, councillors, without notice that you might want to raise? No. We have one question on notice in section 16. 16.1 is the Kapunda Mural Town Committee Silo Art Project. And this motion was put forward by Councillor Dean. Thank you, Councillor Dean. Would you like to speak to this motion?
It's all pretty clear, I think, hopefully in the report. I just perhaps mention that the interest of state government in providing some funding for that came to our attention via an approach by Tony Piccolo. And there is a grant that can be applied for, but if we're not successful in getting that, he indicated that he would be probably able to get some money for us regardless. So it's part of a silo trail sort of initiative, community initiatives that are keen to promote. Just one point was raised by Councillor Collin about number 4, and that is I've got to appoint a staff member to represent council on the steering committee. The reason for the staff member is to have someone with appropriate expertise, but Councillor Collin pointed out that we really need a councillor on there as well, and that should like to add that. I will be on that most likely as a member of the mural committee, but it may be desirable to have a ward councillor if either are interested to be on that committee as well. Other than that, that's all I've got to say.
Thanks very much, Dean. Mr. Collin?
Sorry.
The only other thing I saw on for it just says authorise the chief executive officer to provide a letter to support. Shouldn't that be the mayor? I think writing that for the authorise the chief executive officer, but the mayor is actually the person who should be writing that letter, in my opinion. But I might be wrong.
No, I think you're quite right, but I thought you were my friend. Another letter.
Well, it's just that, if you're writing to the minister, or yeah, that was only one thing. But I'd be I'd be happy to go on as a ward member if you want to go on, Peter. But yeah, I would, because I'm interested in it and see what happens.
Yeah.
But, I don't have much input, but I would just have interest if that would be okay.
It's great to see it getting support. Our town's become, and it always has been, somewhat of an art base. And we might not be aware, but we now have 3 art galleries in the main street. There's a new one just opening up, or has opened up, pardon me, in the old ANZ Bank. And it's absolutely outstanding. there's a small gallery right beside the optometrist, run by Michael, the optometrist. And then that's an artisan gallery where Michael invites a specific well-known artist to display their artworks in there and constantly changing that over. And it's a nice space. It's a lovely space. So the town is starting to come alive with its murals around town, lots of colour and everything else. So this is probably the jewel in the crown, getting the silos up and running, painted up so that they are going to look, no doubt, absolutely stunning in night times in particular. I don't know if people have been to Corn and had a look at what they've done up in Corn. It's been quite an amazing thing. They have a projection onto their silos as well as, and it's really something quite special. So we're probably in a really good space with all of this because we've got examples that are around the place, around Australia, probably, certainly in South Australia, of what works, and maybe be able to cobble something together that will work even better. So I look forward to it. But thanks for the volunteers. You want to say something? Okay,
Mr. Mayor, just a question if I may.
certainly.
I don't know if it's confidential or not. Are they owners, the new owners, are they locals or as a consortium or?
That's a good question.
Just if we're funding, be nice to know who's going to be in control of it in the long term.
Yeah. Were you able to answer that question? Are the new owners local?
So whilst through the chair, Mayor Bill, don't know the exact addresses where the owners reside. However, two are brothers that have a business in Light Regional Council area, and I think there's an external party as part of that group, as in external to the council area.
Mm.
Just another comment. I noticed today driving down the main road, you can actually see the top of the silos as you drive along. So it's something that can actually be seen from a distance rather than from being right at the silo. So it's got passing potential. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Bill.
Mayor Bill, there's a very good visibility of the top half of the silos from the Foodland car park too.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's quite relatively close to that, so you actually would get a good view from that distance as well.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Dean. I think it's going to be fantastic when they're completed. It's going to look really good. I'm not sure quite where we're up to at the moment. I'm being asked to just hold off on this recommendation for a second or so.
Mayor Bill, can I ask a
Certainly. Yep.
question? I thought I heard you say that you're interested in being a council member on that steering committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd like to out of interest. I think I haven't got a strong interest in art, but I'd like to be on the committee and just have a look to see what happens. And I might have something to offer. But if I'll volunteer if people are happy to put me on there. But I'm not going to jump up and down.
I'll be happy to include that in the motion if. But I think I've moved it, but whoever seconded it, that's the case. Happy with that, we can add it.
Not too sure who seconded that motion. Okay.
Our apologies on that. We're just making sure from a governance point of view that where we've got a person who is already on the mural committee, effectively moving a recommendation, it probably just on reflection, probably something the mayor shouldn't accept. in terms of that. And equally, what we think the motion should be is authorising the mayor for the letter. And then I think item 5, which has disappeared, is about the council appointing an elected member to be on that committee or to represent council, which I think Councillor Collin is saying he would like to be that person, which in our view would then effectively dismiss him from seconding that motion. And there needed to be an additional dot point because only I can authorise a staff member to go on the committee. So that's just a technical. But from the first 2 points of view, so yeah, so the motion as it is actually pretty good. However, given that Councillor Dean is actually a member of that mural committee, probably that solves a range of matters.
That solves the problem. Thanks, Councillor Fabio. Councillor Fabio has now moved this, but I'll need someone to second this motion as well. Councillor Allison. Would you like to speak on this, Councillor Allison? Councillor Fabio?
No. But I will say just quickly, it's good to see Colin putting his hand up, even though he doesn't have a aspiring, future in art. But I think it's one of those things that we can all appreciate. In particular, the non-artists amongst us. So that's a good thing.
Well, thanks, councillors, and thanks, Richard and Kari, for pointing that out, because it is important that we play by the rules, and we make the rules at times, but sometimes we've got to apply them as well.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say, given Colin's added height, he'll probably have a different view to everybody else's.
So 4, 5 and 6 in this recommendation have been updated. So we're all clear on that, councillors? I might take the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks for the clarification on that, Kari. Oops, 16.2. 16.2 is the offset scheme and fund. A motion is on notice. The council directs the chief executive officer who may delegate to other staff as needed to develop an offset scheme and fund under Planning Development and Infrastructure Act 2016 to replace the Kapunda District Centre Car Park Fund. We have someone who's moved that way, Councillor Collin. Would you like to speak on it, Councillor Collin?
All I'd like to say is I think before we were asking for guidance to do this, so this is not the first time this motion's been put up. Before we're looking for guidance from the state government, what I'd like to see is us write it, give it to the state government, and then if they don't like it, they can tell us how to change it and what to do. I think it's important not just for our council, but there's a lot of other towns who are going to go through this trouble. It's not, so we're no orphan on this one. So I think if we could lead and get one written, and Craig, and I'm sure he's very capable with his team, and we could present it to it has to be presented to get it done, because at the moment the one we've got, it just doesn't help any development of the main street, and yeah, we just need something that's more workable than the one we've got. So hopefully this one can be replace the old one as quickly as we can, and then that would make the next motion hopefully cheaper for us in the future if there's more people apply for the rebate.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Collin. I have to agree with you. The current situation is quite complicated, and it's very difficult to navigate through how it actually works. So this is perhaps another opportunity for us. So I have a mover. Would someone like to second this particular motion? Councillor Fabio. Councillor Fabio, would you like to speak on this? Are there any questions or comments, councillors, in relation to this? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, councillors, and thanks, Colin, for your motion. We move on to 16.3, which is basically attached to what we've just been speaking about. There's a motion at the top of the page. Is there any discussion, or would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Colin will move. I'd like to speak on this, Councillor Colin.
We've put 100%, but that's going to be the council discretion, so it doesn't have to be 100% subsidy. But I think there's business in the town that are getting imposed a huge amount of money to develop car parks that actually aren't needed. But it is needed. We have to have the rebate system in if we want people to actually do any development at all. Otherwise, they're not going to do it. And there's going to be businesses that are here going to leave because of the impost of it. The people in planning, it's hard for them because they just have to say what's in the what it's, you know, what the equation is and how that comes up. So this just takes the pressure from the planners, puts it to the chamber, and if we can come to an agreement with the people doing the development, and hopefully it's short term, hopefully the new car parking fund can replace this one, and then that's why it's only till 2026. Hopefully in the meantime we can get one done. So I think for the sake of development we have to pass this.
Thanks, Councillor Colin. Councillor Fabio, would you like to speak on this?
Very briefly, Mayor Bill, through the chair. I understand that this comes at a potentially a cost to the council. However, I think not doing this would create a bigger cost to our community in the way of the facilities that are available, the occupancy of the main street, and the general appeal of the main street to passing tourists and people that are thinking about moving to Light Regional Council to make it their home. I think, you know, activity in a main street is a good gauge of how healthy the town is doing. And if you look at the moment, there's unfortunately a few buildings that are being long-term absent, and that doesn't portray a very good picture of how the town is going. So I think in the interest of getting those buildings tenanted as soon as possible and you know, making it a viable proposition for someone to actually take on those tenancies, I think we need to go with this. So I'm 100% supportive of this, and in fact, you know, the 100% subsidy is a great idea. Sure, certainly at this time.
Any further comments, councillors? Councillor Dean. Oh, sorry, Councillor Michael. Was it a dead? Might have been a photo finish again.
Oh, thank you. It was so sorry, Councillor Michael, but the intent of this motion I'm very strongly supportive of, and I think that the real problem, and I think this has been evident for a long time, and it's widespread across regional South Australia, is that the formula gives you far too many car parks. A case in point would be the Foodland car park, which I think might have even been reduced from the actual formula number a little bit, but that has never been more than half full from my observation, except once when they brought in a very sudden lockdown, and then was about 3/4 full. There is, if we don't do something, Colin is right, Councillor Collins is right, it just kills development. I'm just have a question because I'm a bit vague about what this. The last time we talked about this, I think we probably explored the idea of providing a discount on the amount, and we aren't allowed to do that. Is that correct? Because it seems to me that if you apply a discount on the amount rather than a subsidy, then it won't actually go into the fund, and therefore we don't have to put anything aside.
Yeah, Craig, would you like to try and navigate the answer to that, or?
Councillor Collins going to respond first. Oh, well, yeah, but all I was going to say is the last one, what we did, we picked out a part of the main street and not the whole car park fund area. So what we'd done is we put it to the top of the main street, to the bottom of the main street. And there's been businesses since that are outside of the proclaimed area, which have to be in. The other thing we did 80%. And, but basically it's exactly the same. We will have to put money into a fund. So if we are, it's going to cost us money. And that's why the quicker we can actually get this new one done to replace the old one, the better off we will be. So if the one that's in the pipe at the moment, that could cost council a substantial amount of money. But it's just on the never, and then it will have to go into car parking in the future. I think that's right, Craig.
Thanks, Craig.
Yeah, essentially, so through the chair, we were talking about an 80% model that's in the current policy. This would be an up to 100%. And it still applies, but for the full extent of the designated area for the current fund. So it goes beyond the limitations of what was it, Coghill Street and Clare Road, I think, that was built into the current policy update.
Councillor Michael, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Bill. As a concept overall, I'm very much supportive of what we can do as a council to encourage and attract businesses to Kapunda. And I do feel as though this is an impost that's an impediment to people who, have an idea that necessitates a change in use and results in contributions to a car parking fund, but in practice, probably not any additional car parks. But what I would like to draw attention to is probably, and it's probably a question for Councillor Collin, is the discretionary element of the motion. I think it's much cleaner for it to simply be 100%, because then the question becomes, how do you exercise discretion? The question I have is whether or not they can actually come to the council anyway to make those decisions. And I think if we simply just baked it in and said that's what it is until the new fund is up and running, I think it's a little bit cleaner, but the rest of it's okay.
Yeah. Everyone sort of on top of that? Councillor Michael was saying there. Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I may.
Councillor Bill?
I suppose it goes through to Nigel. If this money is a subsidy and it goes in the car parking fund from us, is that just a circular payment through our CAD payments, or does it have to be isolated?
Greg may know. I'm not sure what you mean by circular payment, but
I mean, can we put it up against, if we put the money in, can we put that money against our CAD line while it's not being used? That's what I'm trying to say. So it's not just sitting there.
well, my understanding is it has to be expressed in the fund. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, it'll be simplistic to some degree. It'll come out of our operating statement as a payment. So it will impact the budget year that is wherever you're at. The money will then sit as cash within council's accounts, and it will be identified in the car parking reserve. So it will then sit effectively as an asset, which in my view will have some level of accounting commitment attached to it for a particular purpose. But yeah, so it will go from an expense effectively into an asset style item. Simplistically, Nigel can complicate that a bit though.
But it would be exactly the same if someone had paid the money. So if the developer had paid the money, it would be, we're just paying the money into the thing. So it'd be exactly the same. So it doesn't matter that we're paying it. It still has to be honoured in the fund because we're replacing the money that's what it says. So the money will have to go in the car parking fund. That at some point will have to be honoured. But I'm quite happy, Councillor Michael, if you want to make an amendment to that and make it 100%, I've not got a problem with that, but you're going to have to amend the motion now. It's been moved and seconded, is that right?
So your issue was the word subsidy in there.
No, just to get rid of
The
the,
up to.
I'd get rid of up to and that's it, yeah.
Just two up to.
So, Mr Mayor, this becomes a budget issue too. It's got to pass the budget.
Does.
Not making a decision now, apart from saying go ahead, do some planning.
So we're comfortable with that? A subsidy of 100%. Is the mover happy with that minor adjustment to the wording? Advise a subsidy of 100%, not up to. Councillor Michael is second. Are you comfortable with that? Oh, Councillor Fabio, sorry. Yeah, comfortable with that? Okay, well, the recommendation has been changed very subtly. If there's no further questions or comments, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors. I think we'll all agree this is a very complicated matter and it's something that we really do need to deal with, and it's not going to go away and it's probably going to happen again in the future. So we do need to perhaps come to some absolute conclusion at the end of all this and be happy with the outcome, and then make sure that we don't have to revisit it. Now, so if we move on now to motions without notice, section 17. And I don't think we have any of those in our open meeting of council tonight. We may have something in our confidential section, but there's nothing in our motions without notice. Yeah, are there any motions without notice from around the table tonight, councillors? If not, there's no motions without notice. It seems like we might be heading into our confidential section now, councillors. We've got, I think, 5 items tonight. It's quite busy. So we thank our guests and our who are here with us tonight, and the staff members who perhaps aren't involved with this section of our meeting. Thanks for your attendance and